Okay, so let's say a prayer and just a real brief meditation. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, beloved Master, Paramhansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, we humbly bow to you all. Bless us with guidance and especially with grace. Help magnetize our consciousness, that we stay pointed toward freedom in Thee, and help us serve as channels to bring Thy love and light to everyone we meet. Om, peace. Amen. Just meditate a couple of minutes.
So, thank you for coming. And this is just meant to be very informal. It's just like friends sharing thoughts about the spiritual path, the spiritual life. And I hope you came with some questions that aren't too hard. We got one at the very end of the session before this that I don't know how to answer that question. So anyway, it's very nice to share in this way. And yesterday morning when we were coming over for a group like this, Asha said to Keshava, are you going to turn on the samadhi light? And we thought, oh God, do you have a samadhi light in your temple now? And these little quotes from samadhi, I guess the electricity was not working, and Keshava and his brother Shanti fixed them. So anyway, we're all sitting under the samadhi lights right now.
But our great hope that there was something that was just going to shine on us and enlighten us. Master, you may have known, he he was always creative. And at one point he invented something called the Temple of Silence that looked like a big helmet, and it plugged your ears, and then there was a little star on a wire that hung down in front of you. And, you know, if we saw that today, somebody wearing that, we'd think it was really strange, but didn't bother Master, you know. It just, there's something so charming in that kind of level of creativity and disregard for the conventions of society.
What people think.
So anyway, we hoped for samadhi lights, but we got them, but our
Their effect is a little
expectations-
slower than we had hoped.
Yeah. I mean, nice though it is not enjoyable beyond imagination of expectancy. That's for samadhi bliss rather than samadhi lights.
So if you have a question, Viveka Devi has a mic, and you just kind of wave your hand, and you have permission to take your mask down when you ask the question, and the mic's on, but hold it up close to your mouth, sort of like this, like an ice cream cone that you're going to eat, because otherwise it's muffled. The sound's muffled. And yesterday we had one of the people in one of the sessions was a man named Paddy. He's of Indian origin, just a delightful fellow. And he asked the question, and it was nice and succinct, and we were teasing because in India, we learned this from Daya's husband Keshava, you never give up the mic. Because if you give up the mic, then you never get it back. The person starts reciting the Upanishads and on and on. So Keshav said, you always hold the mic, and they're trying to pull it, and you're trying to pull it. So anyway, Patty did a good job. But we will give you the mic because you don't have that tradition. Okay, so Daya has the first question. She didn't know she did, but there she is.
So decade after decade, you continue to be just channels of Master, of Swamiji, of our divine ray of masters. And I think now it's pretty much 24/7 since we have work all around the world. But just times when you're feeling tired, or that you just want time on your own, or how to separate that from knowing that, of course, we continue to give, just that line between constantly serving and also nurturing yourselves.
That's a sweet question.
Yeah. You know, there's no pat answer. I don't know, it's kind of like taking a walk or a run where you're at a certain pace, and there are times where you just can't continue that pace and you have to back off a little bit. But I think for us, to a certain extent, it's just because the world of Ananda now is global, truly is global. You know, we used to affirm that 20, 25 years ago, but now it really is. And especially with Zoom, there's no kind of localized time. So 7:30 in the morning here is 8 o'clock at night in India, and if you're doing a satsang, you just do that. So to a certain extent, there is a constant demand. And I think for us, we just do as much as we can, staying happy while we're doing it. And then at times we have to back off. But quite frankly, Ananda people are very, they're lousy at being able to say no. You know, it's just not in our training, not in our DNA, not in any of that. And so we tend to err on the side of overdoing, and we have to cut ourselves some slack when we feel the need to back off. And in some cases, if there's a lot of scheduling, you need to schedule in time. Like, just this is a relatively busy weekend for us. And then we're going back. And we had things already, people were wanting to have things on Monday. And so finally, about midweek, we just said, no, we've got to cancel those. We need a day just to relax and get settled again. And then we can move them till Tuesday. But I'm speaking partly to Daya, but many of the rest of you too deal with this same thing, where it's kind of like a room where the air pressure outside the room is greater than inside. And so there's a constant pressure of things coming in. And sometimes you just have to close the windows. And so I think to build into your schedule some relaxed time is actually not only better than saying yes all the time, because if you do that, you end up with lower quality. So I think you just need to do that. And I'm trying to convince myself that what I'm saying should apply to Devi and me too, because we really do need to do that.
But I think these are things we do that really work. We try to have, so every day there are structures, there are planned things, like we get up, energize, do a few yoga postures, meditate. And then, so we don't, oh my God, we missed our meditation. If you have to redecide every little thing. And then we have 3 meals a day that I prepare, and then I enjoy it, it's fun for me. And meal time is a time we don't look at devices, we don't, we're not watching a movie or anything. Occasionally we watch a movie when we're eating, but it's the exception. But we try to have relaxed, focused meals that kind of get you, so you look at breathing points throughout the day. We usually try, so after we meditate, we'll have breakfast, then we'll work for a couple of hours, usually meetings or emails, and then we try to, walk time, go for a walk. I know you do that too. But so we build in times that are intrinsically rejuvenating, and we do it regularly. So, should we walk today? I don't know. It's time to walk, And evening, meditate before dinner, because we know we'll have better energy then, and then have dinner and then relax or have a program, whatever it is. But I think if you look at, there are always unexpected demands in everybody's life. But if you look at what you do have control over and times, and if I sleep till this long, I'm not going to be able to meditate. So it's, I make that choice. It's up to me. And anyway, just to really look at, it was a good image that Jyotish gave of pacing yourself, because we're in this for life. We have a life sentence and or a life gift. Yeah, gift. Yeah. And how am I going to sustain this decade after decade? Swami was a wonderful example. He'd work really hard on writing a book, and then he'd take time off and go on a vacation and just totally not talk about business, just totally wherever he would go. He had favorite places. In America, he loved Carmel. In Italy, he loved to go up to Switzerland, to Lugano. In India, he would go to Goa. And, it was like, okay. And he would, those who were around him during those times, it was really clear he didn't want to talk about business or problems or anything, just to enjoy himself. So, it's just sort of, we need to apply the energization principle. Tense with will, relax and feel. And you've got to do both. Or, if you keep tensing the muscle, you burn it out. So,
Yeah, there's no really simple answer. It's just, I don't know, you watch a bird soar and sometimes it's flapping its wings and sometimes the wings are just steady and all it's doing is moving a feather here and there. So, but life is like riding the wind currents and you just have to respond to what it is. But you can't flap all the time. So be unflappable.
so other questions?
Okay.
Brave Sai Ganesh.
Now this is, I
Yeah,
think
we gave
you're
him the
trained.
mic.
Yeah, we've already surrendered the mic.
See,
If you start quoting the Upanishads,
I'll try not to. In the last 10 or 12 years that I've been a disciple of Master, I've seen somewhat of a shift in Master's work in general, with Ananda's expansion after Swami left his body, and also SRF reaching out and expanding in its own ways. And with the pandemic in these last couple of years, there's been this whole other octave that things have moved on to. I'm wondering if you have any ideas or thoughts on where you see this large expanse of Master's work, not just through 2 organizations, but just so many others in their own way, tuning into him in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, which there's a chance I might live to see. If there is something that you see happening as energies that are manifesting right now in this time.
yeah, very interesting question. One thing that's happened because of the pandemic, it's forced us to go online. In Assisi, every year for about 5 years, Devi and I would go to Assisi and we would urge them to start an online ministry. And that you've got to get online, you've got to start offering your programs. And year after year, oh yes, we really mean to do that, but, and then there would always be, as Swami used to say about the Italians drove him nuts, he'd give all this wonderful advice, and they would say, è vero Swami, meaning it's true Swami, but, and then would come the excuse of why. So,
Well, ma è
Yeah.
difficile.
ma è difficile.
It's difficult.
It's difficult. So year after year it was, yes, we got to get online, ma è difficile. They got more online in 3 days after the pandemic hit than they did in 3 years before that. And now they're reaching literally thousands of people throughout Europe that they would not otherwise reach. And so the pandemic forced that shift throughout the whole world of Ananda. If we had somehow been able to count the number of people that we were connecting with, giving classes with, pre-pandemic to post-pandemic, we're at least 3 or 4 times bigger around the world than we were at that time. So one trend in the future is that's never going to shift back, because you find it here in the Bay Area. Any urban area, there is so much clogging of traffic that if you give a class in the evenings, in India it's really severe. People, depending on the time of travel, will have to commute for 2 hours to get to your class and another hour to get home. And so they just can't do it. They don't do it. It's too busy. It's untenable. Well, the same is going to be true here. And so the fact that you're giving classes both in person and online streaming is going to be the new norm. And I don't see that ever changing back to what it was, which was just in-person classes. That's one of the things. The other thing that goes with that is, for instance, we had 2 or 3 years ago when we had Ananda online, we gave the beginning meditation. We do the same series, basic lessons in meditation, and then Raja Yoga and discipleship and Kriya prep, and then finally Kriya initiation. That beginning class 3 years ago was, we'd get 30 or 40 for a class, and we'd do that 3 or 4 times a year. Now we're getting nearly 200, and we're doing it every 2 months. And so, but what happens along with that is you can't just give canned classes. Then you need, those students also need personalized support. And so the next trend that's happening, the next trend that's happening is we're going to need a lot of mentors as well as the primary teachers to work personally with those people. Gyandev and Diksha are just now doing a class in the Yoga Sutras, and it's a very intensive class, and they needed a lot of mentors. They ended up with 25 mentors from India. And so we're going to need more mentors, and those mentors are not going to be localized. So I see kind of a future where the online classes, probably the quality of the online class will improve because the teachers may be more experienced. Even if they aren't, there will be supplemental material that you can do online that you can't do in person. You can have Swami, watch, if you're giving a Gita course, watch Swami explain these 5 shlokas before you come to class, that kind of thing, that you can't do in person. So there's going to be these hybrid systems that work. So that's one trend that's going to, and we have to explore. We're going to have to figure out how can we deliver the very best quality with this kind of a flow, just as we did before. How can we deliver the best quality when it's all in person? So that's going to be constant. I think that we're going to see a period of societal disruption, economically and socially, where people will need more support, and they will begin to value the values of Ananda, and especially community, that we've been exploring for 50 years. Those things that seemed like, who needs that, are going to begin to come, oh my God, you have a solution for what we're going through? I think we're going to be drawn on. So hybrid, we're going to have to respond to people's needs and do it in a very humanized and loving way. Because, you can automate certain things, but you can't automate friendship and love. And so I think we'll move more and more to those supportive energies as opposed to kind of the content orientation. There are many other things, but those that come to mind.
Yeah, I could add a few more concepts. I think with the increased online students and training, and they're from all over the world, from wherever we're broadcasting from, there are students receiving it. And you mentioned SRF, they're doing a lot more outreach too. It's very nice to see. But I think one of the fruits of all this is the breakdown of organizations. Because people, if you're taking an online class, it's not like going to a church or being part of a sangha. It's like, I'm studying these teachings, but here I am in Ireland, and there's no people around me, and how am I going to keep it going? Maybe I'll try to teach myself, but it's like tremendous dissemination of Master's teachings, and where is it going to, what will it develop into? I think it's going to be the breakdown of organizations where people say, I love these teachings, Master's my guru, but I'm not a part of any church. I practice them. I'm seeking God. And there's that line in Autobiography where Master says, I see my Kriya bonds like points of light scattered all over the globe. And that's, I think, what it's going to be like. It's not, look, I belong to SRF. Oh, well, I belong to Ananda. It's points of light all over the globe. And I think Ananda is particularly good at developing that. We mentioned to a group of you at lunch the other day that one of our main teachers online shared with us a letter he got from one of his students that just said, I can get these teachings. I have gotten these teachings elsewhere before coming to Ananda, but what I find of the greatest value through Ananda is the spiritual friendship and support. And we're good at that, all of us. It's just kind of instinctive. It's not like coming to meditate and, don't talk and just leave and all that. It's like there are always people to talk, and if you have a problem, somebody's there for you. So the breakdown of organization. And from that, it will be a movement into Dwapara Yuga, where society as a whole, the forms break down. And society as a whole begins kind of changing and being elevated to a certain extent. And then, as Jyotish was saying, I think the community's movement, Master predicted, it's the social pattern of the New Age. And it would spread like wildfire. Well, it hasn't spread in our lifetime like wildfire. We're desperately working and continually pumping up our communities. But as the general consciousness raises, as the quality of life as we know it perhaps begins to decline, it will be self-evident that that's the way to go. And we know of, I'm a little hesitant here to say this, but I'm trying not to divulge people's personal directions, but people we know are going down to Mexico now. A boy of Mexican origin and his wife, they're going down to see if they can get something going in Mexico. His mother has some property, and and he asked us what we thought, and we said, try it. It's worth a try. It may not work, but try it. Maybe it will work. And so there's one. And then the final thought is, you have this vibrant school here, Living Wisdom School. And we went for a little walk during the break, and we never noticed that beautiful little statue in front of the end. Oh, I don't know who did that, but it's precious. It's precious. But again, we've struggled so hard to keep our schools going. And the school in Seattle closed down, the school in Portland closed down. They never really had one in Sacramento. And so the one at the Village and the one here are really the only two existing Living Wisdom schools in America. In Europe, it's found greater receptivity. And for whatever reason, I don't know why in a way I would predict the opposite, because Europe's more kind of old tradition and, formal education and all that, but they're very receptive. And Kabir, you all know, who did the high school here, through a remarkable set of circumstances, has found a wealthy patron, to put a fine point on it, and to support the spread of EFL. And he started what we call Education for Life Institute, and they are developing a curriculum for teacher training. That's always the wall we hit. We can start the schools, but we don't have enough qualified teachers. You do here, we do at the Village, but in both Seattle and Portland, they didn't have it, and the schools didn't hold together. And so he's got and he's working with an Italian woman, Prem Jyoti, who has run for 10 years the school in Assisi. And
we do this at home when we're on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Meaning shorten the answer a little bit.
But
you're rambling.
No.
You're not rambling, but we have more questions.
But it's just an important thing for the future, is that training to spread education for life, to train the teachers, and so that we can start schools everywhere, rather than we're going to start a school and you taught third grade, you can teach here. It hasn't worked. So these are trends of the future.
Many other trends that we could talk about, but I think the most important thing is our flexibility, that we have to be able to adapt to and address the needs of the time. And there's no way to know, but Ananda's good at having flexibility. Other questions?
I thought Steve would have a question.
Yeah, I did too.
Hi, good morning. I'm just wondering, I look at our communities and I see a model that has been vibrant, and that I wonder about its future in its current form. I don't see that it's replicating itself. It started in America. I don't know if it's going to replicate itself in America, and it doesn't seem to be replicating itself anywhere on the planet in that particular form, the online community adequately. But I'm wondering about a residential community, and in particular because it's so closely tied to the Sevaka order, that the two are linked, and without residential community, at least the way it's currently defined, we don't really have a Sevaka order. So how do you think that might evolve in the coming years?
Yeah, good question. We're wondering the same thing.
You can give the mic to me.
Yeah, communities are almost the hardest thing to replicate because you have to have the whole package. Everything you have globally available, if you have a localized community, you basically have to have all of that. You have to have finances, you have to have leaders that can work with people, you have to have flow of energy and ideas and facilities and all of those things. It's very hard to go from nowhere to having that. And so the pattern that was followed here has been the pattern basically everywhere except Ananda Village throughout America, where you have first a tiny little center, then you have an ashram, and finally you have a community. But it kind of grows up. You can't start with nothing and all of a sudden have a community. I don't know how it's going to replicate. I suspect that to a certain extent, the online aspect is going to help solve this, because we may be able to fill in parts online that a localized community can't fill in for themselves. So we have a little community up on Camino Island, the farm there. And it's got about a dozen or 15 people, but it couldn't exist in isolation, I don't think. It exists as a satellite of a nearby work. So what we may end up, think of the Bay Area, if this is the epicenter, maybe there are little communities, little satellite communities around, that they don't need to have everything at the high level that we have here. Don't need a big facility, don't need all the things that we have. So I think we'll have a lot of different kinds of models, as opposed to just one model that we have to replicate everywhere. Because we haven't started a new community in America for 25 years, I don't think. A real, a live-in, vibrant community, other than Camino Island, but centers are springing up, and so I think it'll be big centers with satellite communities of people living together, and so those little groupings may spread more like wildfire, but I don't see big communities doing that. It just requires too much of everything.
But when you ask, were you done?
Yeah.
Okay. That was sort of rambling.
I know it was. I know it was. Because I didn't know, if I'd been smarter, I could have been shorter. But.
I want to address the part of your question about the Sevaka order. You know, Swami he said the village is sort of the community that, the way he described it was sort of the mountaintop. And then, and this community here is beautiful as well, and Seattle. But I think we need to have communities where this bar is high. And they will grow more slowly because of that. People wash out because they don't want to match that expectation of spiritual commitment. But we have to have them. If we don't have them, over time, the community's movement will just become a nice social experiment. And that's not what Master envisioned, or Swamiji. And so we have to keep the standard high. But then Swami also said, I see many communities over time evolving. Some would be focused just on the arts, some just on agriculture, some just on education. So there can be satellite communities, but we need models of spiritual communities that are based on inner renunciation, because that's what will move the consciousness of this, that's what will hold the consciousness of this movement high. So I don't think yes, it's harder to draw people that want to live a life of inner renunciation, but if we don't, it will diminish over time.
We may end up delinking the Sevaka order from communities, but we struggled with this. We had a whole week-long conference in Assisi with Swami talking about the Sevaka order. Basically, what we were struggling with is the dividing line between people whose karma was such that they had to attend to private karma. Maybe they were married, their husband or wife didn't want to be in community, or they had to take care of somebody, but they were dedicated, maybe more spiritually dedicated than those living in community, but karma didn't allow them to live in community. So we were struggling with the question, how do we have a group whose the center of their life is Master and the path and spreading Master's teachings and doing community? How do we have that, and yet there's a difference between people whose karma keeps them in an orbit farther out and those who land on the planet itself, But so we came up with, well, the best thing we can say is that the kind of indicator of that karmic pattern is that they can live in community. But that wasn't really, it was just the best way we could capture it. So we may end up delinking that. But
I would doubt it, though.
I doubt it, because there is a difference between those who are willing, ready, able, and karmically it's possible to say, I don't really have another life except this. And those who say, I've got a whole life I have to attend to, and yet this is also important to me. So we're just playing with that kind of differentiation.
But it really ties in with what Saganesh asked too. I think there'll be a breakdown of organizational emphasis, and communities may start of Master's devotees that are entirely independent, and that would be wonderful. That's what it should be. Yeah, he's eclectic. I mean, he's not really.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Newest community.
Absolutely.
Right.
To mind that very idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good example.
Who did you say, Steve?
Michael
Gornick.
Mhm. Yes.
You guys mentioned yesterday in one of these satsangs overcoming resistance, which has been something I've been trying to work on with concentration over the last few
I
weeks.
couldn't hear you. Oh, you
Overcoming resistance.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't eating the ice cream cone well enough, I'm sorry. But one thing that I've begun wondering is if sometimes the root cause of my own resistance is attachment to my own personality and to how I perceive myself. And I just wonder if you could help me understand how to practice non-attachment better and overcome resistance.
Okay.
You know, Ramakrishna used a wonderful image that it's like peeling an onion. And you peel one layer, you find another layer underneath, you peel that layer, and it goes and goes and goes until there's no layer left. And so each of those layers is some level of resistance. And so overcoming resistance is the spiritual path. And so all I could say is, how? Keep working at it. And, you know, you work with the mind in terms of self-analysis, especially in meditation, when you can calm a little bit, you will find that you perceive levels of resistance that you may not have otherwise. And I wrote one of the blogs relatively recently about starting with the heart. That when the mind is restless, instead of saying, oh, I have to focus my mind, I have to concentrate, you ask the question, what is the feeling in the heart? Where is the desire, or where is the attachment, or where there's something in the feeling nature that's causing the mind to be. So you look and feel at the energy in the heart, and you'll find some resistance there. And so there's a level there. But when you're calm, you can see those things. When you're not, you can't. And so you just have to keep working at it. You work at it with Kriya. You work at it with service. Everything we do works at eroding those layers of resistance. But there are a lot of layers.
You know, remember in the autobiography when Masters with Sri Yukteswar's ashram, and they've had a big feast and so forth, and then they're cleaning up the kitchen and about to retire, and then some guest whose train was late came in, and Sri Yukteswar said, well, we have to serve them, but sir, we've already closed the kitchen. You go to bed, I will serve them. You know, obviously Master wasn't going to do that, so he got up, and you know, they were cooking, and Sri Yukteswar said, because of your willingness, you will never experience fatigue in your service. And I remember in my own life once, I was working at the meditation retreat in very early days before the expanding light existed, and we didn't have telephones. I mean, or computers. We never knew who was coming. We'd get reservations in the mail, you know. And
after they arrived.
After they arrived, right. And we had all these in the storeroom in the office. We had all these very unsanitary sleeping bags that we would just give out to people if they came and they didn't have a sleeping bag. And so one weekend, a lot of people showed up, and we had given away all the sleeping bags. And I was in the office, and it was about 10 o'clock, and I was closing down. And then somebody pulls up, and there was no tent left. There were no sleeping bags left. So I thought, what are we going to do with this guy? He can't tell him to turn around. So I said, just wait a minute. I ran back to my little trailer, and I got my sleeping bag, and I get a pad, and I gave it to him, and I said, just camp out under a tree. And I didn't tell anybody what I had done. And the next morning, Kriyanandaji came up to give a class, and he just looked at me, and he said, now you're getting the idea. So every time we go beyond what we think we can do, it strengthens our resolve, and it breaks down the resistance. And so, that's why it's so great to have big events where everybody's running around in circles and, oh my God, did you do that? Did you, and then you realize, wow, look what we did. And then it just increases your ability to we were talking about last night, just your own potential. You know, it's just so much more than we know. So rather than thinking about breaking resistance, just think about putting out more energy. And that in itself, you know, will...
You mentioned Michael Gornick. There's a funny story that was told by Michael. Earns his living, still does, by carpentry. He's a contractor. So
Explain, just in a sentence or two, who Michael Gornick is.
Michael Gornick was a man who lived at Ananda for a number of years, but he had a real, a real dharma to work with, especially teenagers that were coming and were not yet committed to spiritual path or spiritual life. And so Swami suggested that he start an independent work, which ended up being called Polestar. Very fine person, deep devotee of Master. But he, all his life, even then, he earned his living by being a contractor. And so a friend told us a story about showing up at a job relatively early in the morning and working with Michael, and this fellow showed up and he started complaining about this and complaining about that, and Michael just looked at him and said, "Ah, yes, let the whining begin." And so stop whining. That's one of the ways of overcoming resistance, and it's a lifelong practice. Devi and I still whine, but we're trying to stop.
There's a young man that is on the staff at the meditation retreat, Brannon, who's an extraordinary athlete. He's a long distance runner, but part of the 50-mile runs, you know, part of the way he trains is he'll fill 2-gallon jugs with water, and he runs down to the Yuba River Canyon, almost straight down, and then back up with these gallon jugs filled with water. And then when he goes to a race, it's easy. So, you know, that's why if you push yourself beyond the comfort zone, then that comfort zone keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we watched all of our friends who are serving in India so remarkably. You know, I don't think any of us can appreciate the heroism that they all have shown, and you know, all the challenges of living there. And yet you see them and they're just happy and fine and, you know, filled with joy. And they just kept pushing past. Like, is it fun to live in the most polluted city in the world? No, but we're doing it, you know.
Their comfort zone got run over and is in the rear view mirror long, long ago. So.
Good morning. It's
Good
a
morning.
joy to have you here.
Thank you.
But speaking of whining, I just notice as I age that my body whines quite a bit.
Yes.
You know, it's blood pressure, my back, my, you know, whatever it could be. And, you know, if I think about Swamiji, he just barreled through it. So as someone who's working with wonderful young people who are full of energy, and here I am in this body trying to keep up and keep my energy up and the joy up. Any words of wisdom on how to deal with the realities of our aging bodies here in Mayaville?
Yeah, it's, and you haven't even mentioned aging minds, too. Pay attention, you know, and do what you can. You know, you might work with Viveka Devi and get a personalized yoga routine. You know, it's so funny with Hatha yoga. Like I have an area of my back that doesn't always behave. And then it's like, oh, yoga postures. And then I start doing them and it goes away, you know. And so, or if you have I had a knee that was bothering me. Shanti sent me this great compression bandage, and I wore it for a while, and it was fine. So pay attention before it gets bad, because and then you can reverse it. And if your blood pressure is high, look at your diet. What should you eliminate? You know, I'll be honest with you. I had high cholesterol. I changed my diet. I upped my exercise. It's almost in the normal range now. It's not true for everybody. Some people have genetic propensities towards high cholesterol that nothing will change. But look at, you know, just do what you can. Take it seriously before it gets bad. You know, if you let it go too long, it becomes really hard to turn around. But look at your diet, or, you know, what's contributing to aches and pains, too much, you know, acidic foods, too much fats, whatever it might be, not enough fresh whole grains. And we also became vegans, and it's helped. I'm not saying everybody has to, but we did in part because of cholesterol, and it's turned it around. So be creative, and don't just be kind of like accepting, well, I guess this is the downhill slope. It doesn't have to be. We just both had, I'm speaking personally, we just both had physical checkups. Jyotish is 78, I'm going to be 75. Peter said, it's amazing how well you are, but we work at it. We really do. We take it seriously. So put energy into, you know, the body, Brother Donkey for sure. But if we want to keep serving, and particularly serving with little kids, you know, I know we have some grandchildren that come around, and it's like, okay, I got to be in good shape for this one, you know, anyway, just do what you can.
And there may come a time when you're not able to do that. Swami, I mean, you look at Swami and you say, well, he served and served and served, but he didn't try to keep up with a bunch of 9-year-old kids. I don't know how old the kids are that you're working with, but he couldn't do it. He wouldn't be able to do it physically. So he kept serving, but serving within his capacity to serve. And all of us are going to need to make that adaptation to the type of service that we do. You know, I used to go out and on work days, I would be digging ditches and carrying heavy loads. And at 78, I would hold people back if I had to do that. So, you know, I end up painting fences or something that's within my capacity. But as the body ages, you have to realistically, I mean, Devi's right, do everything that we can to try to keep the body healthy, but that has its own limitations to it. Then once you've done that, then accept where the kind of boundary lines are and adjust your area of service. The key is to keep serving, not to keep serving in the same way, in the same form forever and ever. So the concept of service shouldn't stop, but the method of expression should change.
You know, one thing I was rattling around in my mind, and I wanted to say in response to Sai Ganesh's question, the next wave, the new generation, it's really for you to determine what the future of Ananda will be. You're getting wonderful training and attunement by serving now with senior members. But we just were having a satsang with the next wave at the village the night before we came down. And we were talking about the tests that Ananda has faced over time. And we said to them, you all will face your own tests. And you'll have to have the strength and the attunement with God and Guru to go through them. So you'll do it different than we did it, because the times demand something new. And you have wonderful young people here that will carry it forward.
To a certain extent, what Ananda has done and needs to continue to do is teach people how to problem solve, not how to solve this problem. And so, because those kinds of problems that your generation is going to get faced with are going to be different than what we were faced with. But the ability to solve a problem, the attitudes, the centeredness, the focus, the grounding in the teachings, all of those are important to pass down generation to generation. But, if it would be similar to, if we had trained you very carefully in how to take care of horses, because that's the mode of transportation that we had. Honestly, if we were training you in the mechanics of how to take care of internal combustion cars, in 20 years you'd be absolutely worthless. But if we were training you in how to figure out how to take care of some kind of a technology or whatever, then so there are certain things you can pass down, but Swami so often said to us and wrote that the central issues on the spiritual path is right attitude. And so training of the right attitude is much more important, and then you guys are going to have to figure out how to solve the particular problems that you get, including what to do with the Sevaka order, or how to start a community, or any of the other things that come up.
And also this thought occurred to me, Lilavati, that there are wonderful Ayurvedic clinics. In fact, our dear friend Diana, who's one of the leaders in India, living in very polluted Delhi all the time, was having a lot of lung problems starting to come up. And she has gone to an Ayurvedic clinic for, I think, a week or 2 weeks, getting deep treatments, breathing in certain oils, deep massage treatments. She said, I feel totally reborn. So if you have, like in the summer when school is out, you might probably, Viveka Devi could help you find some places, but the Panchakarma treatment, it's non-drugs, it's just oils and pressure points and massages and
Yeah. Okay,
you could
one
do a whole
last,
retreat.
we got 2 last questions.
You can pull your mask down, David.
All my life I've been searching for elders and teachers to connect myself to, because it really has served me mentally, physically, and spiritually recently. I absolutely feel the boon of being around high-minded souls, just great people like you and everybody here. My question is it appropriate for me to keep pushing that envelope, to keep breaking out that ceiling and go and search for saints and great souls not on our path? Is it self-serving, or is it helping?
That's a nice question.
Yeah. There are 2 answers to that. If you're
Give the mic to
Yeah.
Viveka.
If you're going for inspiration, it can be helpful. And this is not just physically, but let's say looking at literature. If you're looking at literature about saints or stories about saints, for inspiration, it can be helpful. If you're looking for teachings, it can be unhelpful, because we have a particular path that's quite well defined, and another teacher might have another path that draws the students or draws the people that's, as Swami described it, it's like a wheel with a hub. Everybody's trying to get to the hub, but this spoke leads from this side of the wheel, and this spoke leads from that side of the wheel. So if you start coming down the spoke of teachings, techniques of this path, and you get halfway down and you say, oh, well, I wonder, I heard about this other Sufi teaching. I think I'll go back up to the rim of the wheel and go over here to the Sufi teaching. And you begin down there, and then, oh, I heard about this Buddhist. And you never get to the hub. So you want to be careful about not skimming the surface with the teachings. So inspiration can be good. Trying to find a variety of teachings can be actually unhelpful.
And I think if I will speak personally to you, David, I think I see a lot of spiritual growth in you, and I think at this point in your life, I think it would not be helpful for you to seek out other teachers. I think go deep in what Master and Swami offered. I mean, we've been doing it for more than 50 years, and I feel like I'm just scratching the surface, of what they have to give. And I remember many years ago, I was just at Ananda for maybe 2 years, and Swamiji was speaking in the Bay Area. It was a program with several spiritual teachers. He was one of them. And one night, we came down, it was over a long weekend, and it was a free evening, and one of the other speakers, other spiritual teachers, was giving a satsang. So I thought, okay, I'll go, it's a free night, and Swami wasn't doing anything. He wasn't giving a talk. And so I went, and it was nice. And then afterwards, this teacher said, I'm going to give you all a mantra. There weren't many people, there were maybe 50 or less. And I thought to myself, I don't really need a mantra. I mean, I have Kriya, and I don't need his mantra. And then he said, okay, I want you each to come up to me one by one, and I'll give you a mantra. And when I went up, I kind of got caught in this movement, and I said, I'm following another path. I don't know that it's right for me to get a mantra for you. He said, oh, it's okay, and he gave me a mantra. And then about a month, that event was over, we went back to Ananda, and about 4 or 6 weeks later, I happened to be around Swami, and I said, this other teacher gave me this mantra. And he really reacted. He said, well, now's a good time to tell me about it. And as soon as he said it, I totally forgot the mantra. I can't remember it to this day, and I wasn't even using it. But I could feel what he was communicating with that is stay with our path. You don't need to go outside. And I should have had the conviction when he was saying come up and get a mantra, just not to go up. I was too new, I didn't know. So it's tricky. It's tricky. You don't want to just be, kind of rejecting of everything, but at the same time, there's so much to be gleaned from what we do have. And, that like that chant, if today my mind has dived deep in thee, if I find not, I will not blame the sea, I will find fault with my diving. So that's what we need to look at. Are we diving deep in our teachings? I hope that's not hard for you, what we said.
And Suman had a question, and we'll end with Suman's.
Okay. I really appreciated how last night you were again reminding us about energy and putting energy into every area of our life. And I know for me, just having lived in the Bay Area and a career in tech, one was always rewarded for making things happen. Give it to so-and-so, they'll run with it, they'll make it happen. And you would turn the dials and do everything to figure out a plan. And I find myself now in a situation, and maybe like others, where so much is out of my control to influence. There's other people's karma, there's other situation that I have to consider. So my question is really a fundamental one I'm struggling with around prayer and what to ask Master. So I'm praying, and and then I remember, don't pray like a beggar. And yet I also think, I'm a chela, I'm a child. My eternal Father will give me what is appropriate for my highest good. Construct all of those prayers from the heart, sometimes eloquent, sometimes repeated ones that I've heard. And I don't know when to release it and trust that the right guidance will come. And I don't even know if I can articulate that longing question as well, that when do I stop begging and really appreciate, what is in my control? And, I say that affirmation all the time. I go forth in complete faith in the power of the omnipresent good to give me what I need when I need it. And yet I still feel this, I discontent, or I don't know how else to articulate it.
That's the exact topic of Sunday service tomorrow.
Oh,
So you should definitely go.
I'll be here.
But it's the development, the topic tomorrow is difference between belief and faith. And the development of faith is at the essence of your question. So there's no easy answer. Swami puts it very well, that the essential difference between faith and belief is belief can be based on something that's false. Faith gets based on experience. And so you just have to continue to have enough experiences of God's grace to you, God's presence for you, to really accept. In the meantime, maybe the best prayer is not for this or for that, but to be in tune with God's will for whatever is happening in your life at the time. And in tune with His will, and in tune as a channel for His will, if you're working with other people, as most of us are, a channel of His will, but not a channel of your will, for Him to empower your will, for you to be a channel of His will, whatever that might be. But that takes faith, and it's not easy.
But we'll talk about that more tomorrow. But just, Master does talk about prayer demands. But when you look in Whispers from Eternity, that's all. But what are those prayer demands? They're always for higher states of consciousness and attunement with the Guru.
And right attitude.
And right attitude. So that's what we can demand. That we have control over. The rest, we really don't.
Yeah, the real essence of I go forth in perfect faith, that you will give me what I need at the time that I need it, is not I'll get what I need at the time that I need it. It's I'll go forth in perfect faith. And that's what you're trying to develop. But
Okay, everyone. Thank you for
Okay,
coming.
thank
And
you.
these were wonderful questions.